You may have seen one of the most famous dog intelligence rankings in the world. At the very top is the Border Collie. Millions of people have used it to decide whether their dog is smart, or, unfortunately, not so smart. But there's a problem. For more than 30 years, people have largely misunderstood what this ranking actually measures. It has led many people to assume that a Border Collie must be smarter than a Husky simply because it ranks higher. But wait, is that really what the ranking tells us? Today we're going to find out where this famous list came from, what it was actually testing, and how a ranking of trainability somehow became a ranking of dog IQ. The story begins in 1994, with a book by psychologist Stanley Coren called The Intelligence of Dogs. Coren ranked 133 breeds, but he didn't personally sit down with hundreds of dogs and give them intelligence tests. Instead, he sent out questionnaires to dog obedience judges in the United States and Canada, people who had spent years watching dogs learn and work. He asked them to evaluate the breeds they had worked with over many years. The judges were mainly looking at two things. First, learning speed. How many repetitions did a dog need to learn a new command? Second, obedience. Once the dog had learned the command, how likely was it to perform it correctly the first time? The highest-ranked breeds typically needed fewer than 5 repetitions to learn a new command and obeyed familiar commands correctly more than 95% of the time. At the other end of the ranking, some breeds might need 80 to 100 repetitions, with first-attempt success rates below 25%. So what was Coren actually measuring? Not intelligence in general. He was primarily measuring how efficiently dogs learn and follow human instructions. In other words, working and obedience ability, or what we would commonly call trainability. Coren received evaluations from 199 obedience judges, and the judges showed considerable agreement in how they rated different breeds. Border Collies were consistently seen as exceptionally trainable, while Afghan Hounds tended to rank near the bottom. The final top 5 were Border Collies, Poodles, German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, and Doberman Pinschers. The ranking quickly became popular because it turned a complicated scientific question into something everyone could understand. Which dog is the smartest? And that's a much more exciting headline than which dog is best at following human commands. But that's not the same as measuring intelligence as a whole. Think of it this way. Imagine ranking students by how well they listen to their teacher and how well they perform on standardized tests. Being great at those things tells you something about a student, but it doesn't tell you whether they are creative, good at solving unfamiliar problems, or capable of working independently. And dogs are no different. Take the Siberian Husky. The breed falls into the 4th tier of Coren's ranking, and that has led some people to conclude that Huskies simply aren't very intelligent. But wait. If Huskies are supposedly not that smart, how did they manage to survive and work in one of the harshest environments on Earth? Think about what they were bred to do. In the harsh environments of Siberia, they had to pull sleds across vast wilderness, deal with freezing temperatures and blizzards, recognize danger, and keep moving even when human guidance was limited. Those conditions likely favored dogs capable of making decisions based on their own experience and sensory information. A Husky that doesn't immediately wait for a human command may be less obedient, but that doesn't make it less intelligent. Now consider the Poodle. It ranks second on Coren's list and is exceptionally easy to train. Some poodles can even pick up new behaviors simply by watching others. But there's an interesting twist. When faced with a difficult problem, a poodle may be more willing to turn to a human for help. And honestly, why not? Asking for help can be a form of intelligence too. If you know someone else can solve the problem for you, why struggle alone? So which is smarter, the independent-minded Husky or the highly trainable Poodle? There may be no meaningful answer. And interestingly, Coren himself understood this problem. In his book, he explained that the ranking was never meant to represent every aspect of canine intelligence. He believed canine intelligence had 3 broad dimensions. The first was instinctive intelligence. Abilities dogs are naturally predisposed to perform, such as herding or tracking. The second was adaptive intelligence, the ability to solve problems independently and adapt to new situations. And the third was working and obedience intelligence, the ability to learn and follow human commands. Imagine these 3 abilities as 3 points on a triangle. A balanced triangle would represent a dog with relatively even abilities across these dimensions. But Coren's famous ranking only attempted to describe one of those three dimensions, working and obedience intelligence. So how do we measure the other two? Let's start with instinctive intelligence. Instead of teaching a dog what to do, we can learn about its natural abilities by simply watching what it does on its own. Take a young herding dog seeing sheep for the very first time. Nobody has to hand the puppy a manual and say, "Okay, here's what you do with sheep." Some young dogs may naturally lower their bodies, fix their gaze on the flock, and begin moving around the sheep in characteristic patterns. Others may show little interest at all. That difference can reveal something about instinctive ability. And it also reminds us of something important: breed differences don't tell the whole story. Selective breeding can create strong tendencies within a breed, but individual dogs can still be surprisingly different from one another. So we shouldn't assume that every dog from one breed will automatically outperform every dog from another. The second dimension is adaptive intelligence. This is where things get interesting. Because now we stop asking how well can the dog follow my instructions, and start asking what can the dog figure out on its own. Researchers might test whether a dog can find a way around an obstacle to reach food, pull the correct rope to obtain a reward, or wait for a better reward instead of grabbing the smaller one immediately. These tasks can tell us something about problem solving, flexibility, and self-control. So now you might be thinking, if dogs can be intelligent in all these different ways, why not just combine everything and create one ultimate dog intelligence ranking? In theory, that sounds great. But in practice, it gets complicated very quickly. First, we have to decide what actually counts as intelligence. Is opening a door more impressive than pulling a rope for food? What about solving a completely new problem that the dog has never seen before? Different dogs may be brilliant at completely different tasks. And once we start deciding how much each ability should count, we have to assign weights. Change those weights, and the ranking can change too. There's an even deeper problem. Different cognitive abilities can sometimes point in opposite directions. For example, some experiments suggest that wolves can outperform dogs at certain forms of independent problem-solving. Dogs, meanwhile, are often better at understanding and using human assistance. So if independent problem-solving and cooperation with humans are both forms of intelligence, which animal is smarter? The wolf or the dog? There may be no single answer. And that's why it makes more sense to think of dogs as having a collection of different cognitive abilities, rather than one overall IQ score. And modern canine cognition research has also placed growing emphasis on another fascinating area: social intelligence. In simple terms, this means understanding and using information about other individuals. And dogs are particularly interesting here. Over the long history of domestication, dogs have developed remarkable abilities for communicating and cooperating with humans. Researchers have asked some fascinating questions. Can dogs tell when a human cannot see them? Do they change their behavior depending on what a person can see? Will they take advantage of darkness or visual barriers to steal food? Do they know when it's a good time to ask a human for help? And how well can they cooperate with us to solve problems? If you're interested in discovering more about the fascinating minds of dogs, subscribe to my channel. And in the next video, we'll continue exploring the hidden world of canine cognition, where dogs may be a lot smarter and a lot stranger than we think.